There we go. Sorry about that. All right, mainnet check-in. First, congratulations everyone for the 2.0.3 release and the subsequent 2.0.4 release. Just watching the Foundations miner, I can see that Ludo's RBF pull request has really smoothed things out. Like, I don't think I've seen a single invalid block commit in the past 24, 48 hours or so. And I haven't seen anyone else do it as well. And that's really great. Like, that was a huge pain point for the past few weeks. So I'm really glad that this seems to be working. So again, like, congratulations all around. Like, nodes are faster, nodes are more resilient to nodes don't lock up due to contention between databases anymore. It's awesome. I'm really enjoying how smooth the experience is. That said, though, as of 2.0.4, just FYI for everyone here, the Atlas network is temporarily disabled. This was the source of the Sunday night firestorm that happened. Thankfully, everything is all right. The network recovered, the network is healed. We just have a few more orphan blocks than we would have liked, but I mean, that's what miners signed up to do. So, and just remember, like, bugs are a fact of life. Like, we all miss this in code review. We all miss this in testing. Like, our strength is really the ability to come together and fix them when they do happen. And I think we did a really good job at that. So over, per Astra at Astra, onward and upward. So that's set, and then run through the board. Review in progress. I see we have a PR from Ludo about the, oops, going to minimize this, about revisiting the working directory architecture. This is pretty cool. It's making it a bit easier to understand what all the database files really mean by standardizing on giving them the same names. And it's also a step on the way to making it so that you don't need to restart your node from Genesis. You can just stop the node and restart it. Making sure that this all has at least some sort of sound coherent structure instead of the history-dependent naming system we came up with is a really nice usability fix. And I'm glad that you took the time to write it up.
I see there's a conspiracy to break StackStump.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, Pascal, all of my tools are going to break too, because I have my own like StackStump equivalent scripts that I run. So the pain is felt all around, and I think after this, we're just going to standardize. We're going to have a written standard for the directory structure, just so like we know not to change it willy-nilly, if that's all right with you.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's like, again, I'm happy to like wait on merging this until you're ready, because I know that I don't want to waste.
Oh no, I'll be ready, I'm sure.
Okay. Similar PR here for Ludo. This I think is building off of this last one, making it so that we're always executing one SQL statement per transaction. It makes, I haven't taken a look at this yet. I'm just reading it right here. And it looks like it's going to be handling migrations, make sure that we have databases in the config table. Okay. Cool. So I hope we can get this merged sooner rather than later, just because the blockchain's getting kind of long to rebootstrap. So I'll go ahead and take a look at this week again. And yeah, we'll just take it from there. In progress, mempool collection of metrics. Aaron, how are we doing on this?
So I have a branch that makes the TX tracking feature like a runtime option. But I think what I want to do next is enable it to use the metrics compile time flag, so that when a transaction is finally included in a block, it emits like a Prometheus event saying how long it took for the transaction to get confirmed.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super glad that we have that.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a PR out for that soon?
Yeah, I should be able to open a PR this week. Easy.
Cool. I think we can actually close this now, Pascal, because we have the new feature in 2.0.3 and also 2.0.4 where you can specify
Yep.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good enough for this.
All right, cool. I'm just going to go ahead and comment that here. Cool. I'm still working on 1805. Not much progress because we were working mostly on the release this week. I'll try to work more on that this week. 1641, any progress on this?
No, I haven't touched it.
Okay. 2364, this is miner keeps burning commitment in TXV without being fully synced. I think this is a duplicate of the early mining bug. Yeah. Cool. Okay, refactor, decouple with Clarity VM. Reed, I think I just saw a pull request from you like an hour ago.
Yeah, let's say draft PR with some work. So as we discussed last week, I'm kind of beginning with trying to decouple the util module.
Yep.
And so that PR is for that line of work. I should probably create like an issue specifically for that, if that would be helpful, because this this issue is a much broader thing.
Yeah, this PR you have I'm not sure it's on the board actually for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think it was properly linked to that issue. Yeah, I just linked it, so maybe it'll show up, but.
Okay, I mean, GitHub is kind of hit or miss with this sort of thing. But just want to briefly talk about your PR though. Let me
Sure.
pull up the issue here.
Yeah, so I can maybe give a little bit more context. The goal was to kind of like basically get rid of any dependencies that util has on anything else in the lib. And so like util could kind of be like a standalone module that everything else can depend on, but there aren't circular dependencies. And I'm not like entirely sure where like some of these things that util depends on should go. So that's kind of like the part that's still very much up in the air for me. So I've been temporarily just kind of moving them to a module I'm calling types, as most of them so far have been types, but that's like not, I haven't given much thought to that part of it yet.
Do you think maybe it makes sense to make like just a util/types.rs file?
Or is you mean not... like put those stuff in you mean move all that stuff to util?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do think that might make sense. I was kind of like hoping that like, the more stuff that I remove, I'll have a better sense of like what these dependencies actually are. So it would make more sense to me like where they should belong. Yeah.
Well, speaking to just these two things, public key and private key traits probably should go into the secp256k1 file, just because that's really like how they get used. Or maybe they could be like util/mod. Maybe util/mod is a good place for them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, might be worth just having like a quick meeting once I've kind of identified all of the stuff that is, that needs to be lifted, and we can kind of talk about like where they belong.
Yeah, that sounds good. If you want to set that up, I'm happy to attend.
Sure.
Cool. So you're looking for feedback on this right now, or should we wait until it's out of draft status?
I would wait. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, just having the PR made it like easier for me to kind of catalog the changes, because like, because it's like moving stuff around, there's like a lot of files that change, so it's kind of hard to review. So just made it easier for me to like keep track of what I'm doing.
I appreciate that. Like just doing just this refactoring in one pass as opposed to trying to fold it into a larger PR.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's quite hard to keep track of. And yeah, I'm using CLion has like a pretty nifty kind of move functionality that automatically kind of fixes all of the use statements. So the files really start to build up.
Yep, that's true. I mean, use statements, yeah, can't really make those less compact. Every file's gonna have. All right, cool. New issues. Can't update delegate stacks amount. Free GUR opened this one. Let's open this full issue here. It looks like it's something in the POX contract itself. Is this something that we're supposed to support? Aaron, do you know?
I think that the original proposal for delegate stacks would support updating just by issuing the same function call again. But in order to do this with the current POX contract, I think that you would need to close the current delegate relationship and then redelegate.
Okay, so this is something that could be worked around. Like,
Yeah.
let's the contract do this. We'll see what he says to that. So this issue right here, testing, verify that all event IDs have been freed once the test finishes. This is something that I hope to work on this week. I know that like over the course of the evolution of the networking stack, we have on multiple occasions have had to deal with event ID leaks where some event IDs don't get reclaimed by the system, ultimately leading to a denial of service because the peer network doesn't think it can allocate any more sockets. We can test for this, and we probably should have been testing for this earlier by making it so that when a test finishes, it looks at the state of the network polar and sees that all event IDs except for the server event IDs have been cleared out. So something I intend to work on sooner rather than later, especially now that we're going to spend some time working more on the Atlas system. These issues for Atlas, they're not big issues, but I know that since we had disabled the Atlas network temporarily, I was just taking notes as I was looking through the code at things that we might want to consider changing or fixing before we re-enable it. Mostly they're just performance optimizations. This one isn't though. This is actually a great test case, making sure that the Atlas downloader does not leak event IDs. That's something that this other issue here, testing to verify all event IDs have been freed once the test finishes, could be put to use in helping debug. These other two Atlas issues here, get attachments missing at page index, creating unbound or potentially unbound SQL query, as well as using a chain state transaction on the headers database on the network code path. These are more, these are easier to fix. I was just taking notes again, like we'll get them fixed probably when Atlas comes back online, but now that we have a chance to try again, we'll just we'll just make all the changes we want while it's disabled and then re-enable it afterwards.
For the event IDs issue, is it possible to have the like the relayer thread sort of always handle error cases where it needs to remove the event ID? So like we could add the event ID to the net error as like a field so that it sort of always needs to be added. And then we would have something approaching like a rigorous guarantee that we're not leaking event IDs.
That's a good idea.
Because yeah, I think otherwise we're going to be in this situation where like basically every single error handler in our networking code needs to be careful.
So backing up just one sec, this is not something the relayer would even be capable of doing because the the polling state lives in the peer-to-peer thread, not the relayer thread.
Sure. So the peer-to-peer thread driver then would be able to handle this.
Yeah, we currently do something kind of like this explicitly as part of the return value. But I agree, like it really should be handled as part of the error type. That's way cleaner.
Cool.
So I'll make that as part of this change too. Transactions stuck in mempool beyond 256 blocks. I think this happened during the, or in the vicinity of the issue for Atlas. I guess we can see if they cleared.
I think that's what the Explorer keeps. The mempool of the node itself clears it. But the Explorer wasn't aware that they were cleared.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
I think that's more like something like this, because the mempool itself on the node, it's going to get kicked out.
Yeah, it does clear it every 256 blocks. So
Yeah, no, that I don't think that's the problem. I think it's more the Explorer doesn't realize that they should just remove it.
the
Because I don't think there's an event that's being sent.
well, what actually I'm trying to figure out here is like, did these transactions ultimately get mined? I guess we have to go and look at the chain state itself at this point. Because like if it's a bug in just the Explorer, then yeah, like we'll fix the Explorer. But if it's a problem with transactions not being relayed properly, then that's definitely our purview. So I guess I'll just get back to this and we'll look at the chain state. Building support for Apple Silicon. I'm guessing this means the M1 chip.
Yeah, it's perfectly capable of doing this build. I think this is just adding the target type to our build matrix.
All right, is that something we can easily do?
It should be pretty easy. Like this is basically, I would tag this as deployment. And like, if you look at our GitHub actions, there's like the build release action that actually builds.
You could assign this one to me if you want.
Okay.
I was going to suggest that we ask Larry to submit a PR. It's relatively easy.
I'm going to sign it to Larry too. Congratulations. Thank you for volunteering, Larry. All right. So this is one of Ludo's PRs already. The issue we discovered is we weren't using execute batch. I'm sorry, we were misusing execute batch as opposed to execute. And just by sheer dumb luck, all of the SQL statements we have in our code are in the form of create table and then a create bunch of indexes. So all the tables were getting created, but none of the indexes were. And after spending some time in 2.0.3 looking at performance regressions and identifying indexes as one of the bigger culprits, seeing the seed nodes continue to slow down when they shouldn't be slowing down caused me to look into this and do the head scratching. And then, yeah, rest is history. See, the indexes are not getting created. Ludo's PR, I think, will fix this though. Jason opened this one about moving testnet references. Totally agree. Do you want to send a PR or, because I'm not sure where this falls on our priority list right now.
Yeah, so from my side, I just wanted to report it because I saw it, and that's where I started with it. And I could take a look and see if there's anything I could do with that. But Rust is something I'm less familiar with, but I like a challenge at the same time. But I mostly just wanted to get it on the books, and it was really weird to run cargo testnet mainnet. That was just a fun way to type in a command there.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like the code has cognitive dissonance. No, I appreciate it. Like, thanks for letting us know. We'll make sure to get it fixed.
Thank you.
Hank opened this one. Subsequent stacks transfer with insufficient balance stays pending. Is this due to chaining maybe? Let's open this one. Yeah, it is due to chaining. So I guess this is something we might be able to fix this in the mempool, right, Aaron? Like if we could like fast forward the debits or like estimate what the current balance of an account will be with transactions applied that are still pending.
I don't know. I think this is tricky to say, like to give like a definitive answer on, because like you don't necessarily know which transactions are actually going to impact the balance.
Yeah, you're right, especially if they like run Clarity code that transfer stacks.
Yeah. So I would just like maybe make an appeal to like what other blockchains do. Like how does Ethereum evaluate chain transactions, balances, and then just do whatever they do. Unless what they do is really stupid, then come up with something else.
All right, see what he says. All right. So I opened this one, remove all runtime panics from the relayer thread. I noticed that I'm still not quite sure how this happened, but the act of processing a network result will sometimes cause an error. I think it's a database's locked error or something like that. But that in turn is linked to a expect statement in the relayer thread, leading to a node crash. It might be better just to error out and just say, hey, I couldn't process the network result. In theory, it shouldn't matter because like if you downloaded a block and you don't store the block, you'll try to download the block again. Or same with the transaction, it might get sent to you again. But I know that this is going to screw up the way in which we deal with event relaying. So I'm not sure what the right answer is for that, if anyone wants to comment. Like maybe we could unconditionally I know that like if we have a event dispatcher hooked up to a event sync, I think the API promise we make there is that we will always block if need be, but we will always relay event data in the order in which it was processed and considered to the event sync. So maybe we should conditionally crash if we do have a known event sync. But if there is no event sync, then just eating the error and reporting a warning and doing nothing else might be more appropriate. Is Matt on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, wait, so you're proposing like two modes to run against an event observer?
Yeah, I'm saying if the event observer isn't connected to anything, and it for some reason fails to process a network result, like maybe it fails to store a block or something because you're out of space, or maybe there's something about the SQL database configuration that doesn't allow you to store it at that time. The relayer thread's got to do something with that error. It can either cause the node to crash, which is what it currently happens, or it can just print out a warning saying, hey, I tried to store some data and I couldn't, but I'm going to just soldier on and keep trying. We can't, I'm saying that it might not be wise to do the latter, especially if there's a recipient of these events, like the Explorer, for example, that's expecting all events to be relayed and doesn't really know or want to have to deal with holes in the event data. So maybe there might need to be like a two modes of operation, like a crash on error or like a emit warning on error.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I think Ludo also recently had a PR that checks for that, like for a similar state where if there's a event user and if there's like something actually listening, then panic. Otherwise, don't worry about it. But that I think that's specifically in the code that pushes to the event observer.
Ah, excellent. Okay. But I think this is like I think this might actually be. Oh, you actually replied to this. Okay, I think this actually might be a layer above that. Like this is before we even feed the events into the observer. Like what would happen is if the relayer thread ate the error message and just printed out a warning, it would just drop whatever events were generated during the processing of whatever blocks or microblocks had been downloaded. Depending on when or where the error happened, it might be the case that some block events go missing from the event observer's side.
Gotcha. So that the higher level that you're talking about would just need to be aware if there is an observer configured.
Yeah,
essentially.
because then it probably should crash, or at least it should try again, or somehow deal like I don't know, stall or keep retrying until it gets the events it's expecting.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay, I'm just making note of that. I know that like if you're running a follower node or a miner node, you probably want the warn on error as opposed to the crash on error mode. All right, this is from Phil. I believe it was kind of hard to tell towards the end of his message here, but I believe the issue at hand is actually fixed by Ludo's RBF PR because it's talking about invalid block commits. Yeah, invalid block commit, missed target block. Yeah. And finally, the events, like emit recently confirmed microblocks in the event stream. Okay, so this issue here right now, if you look at the Explorer, you'll see that blocks have a certain number of transactions listed in them. What the Explorer does not tell you is which of those transactions are from the block itself and which are from the microblock stream it confirms. If you look at the chain state, most of them actually end up in the microblock stream, and only a handful actually make it into anchored blocks. And that's not reported right now in the Explorer, but moreover, the microblock stream is not reported at all until it gets confirmed, because that's when the blocks actually get processed and appended to the chain state. Matt, I think this is probably also for you here. When we process unconfirmed microblocks, there's no guarantee that they will necessarily get confirmed later. So it's possible that if we do process unconfirmed microblocks, you'll see events that will need to be rolled back. Is that something that, if we tagged events as coming from unconfirmed microblocks, is that something the Explorer could gracefully handle, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like this would have to be handled similar to how reorgs are handled, where we have like a latest set of rows that are just like has a Boolean column that's marked canonical, and a whole bunch of like basically all history that's not canonical. It just has a single like false flag. It kind of sounds like we would have a similar schema in the database to store these, and probably similar handling.
Okay, so what would we need to do on our side to support this? Do we just need to tag them as coming from the unconfirmed stream and you'll just know what to do, or is there more information you need from us?
That sounds good for now. I think so. Let's see here. We don't know, like, okay, so we have to wait until the next block to determine if those unconfirmed microblocks were accepted, right?
That's right.
Okay.
So you'll see the event twice, for example, once in the unconfirmed stream and once when it's confirmed.
And you would see basically a matching set of TX IDs.
That's right.
Okay.
You'll see a subset of them. Some of them might be, actually not a subset even, just a set that has some overlap with the unconfirmed set.
Okay, and then we would take the, like, I guess the intersection of those.
Well, no,
And
you would
then-
take the latter. Like you would always take the confirmed ones over the unconfirmed ones.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that sounds like enough information.
Okay, I'll make sure that happens. Cool. All right, I think we talked about Schnorr Verify last week, so I think we're actually at the end of our new issues. Backlog, fully support working dir to allow no fuse chain state. I think this is now in progress. Ludo's working on this. TX log, a runtime setting. Is this happening as part of your PR, Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So it's in progress?
Yep.
Sweet. Decreased number of side forks top with minor profitability. I think I've been monitoring the state of the chain. We've been doing a pretty good job of this now. Is there anything more you'd like to see, Pascal?
There's always more, but
Yeah, there's always more. You always have 100% like guaranteed.
but yeah, I think it's been better. There's still some blocks that are propagating slower than others, but it might be just miners configurations.
I have the foundation miner configured to try to mine a block almost immediately after it sees a new burn chain block. That said, like I'm not sure it's been like contributing to reducing the forking. I think because like watching the foundation miner, one thing I've noticed is that it can take a little bit of time for the node to even discover that there's a new Bitcoin block. So if there's multiple Bitcoin blocks emitted quickly, like let's say like, you know, one right after the other in a matter of seconds, which has happened recently. Sometimes it can lead to a missed sortition and other times it can lead to a fork. I guess
Yes, some forks are unavoidable anyway. So
what's up?
Some of the forks will be unavoidable.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the previous blocks. So an idea I had was like to pre-propagate all the blocks, but that might create too much network traffic.
We actually do that right now. It's just that we only do it one block ahead. So if your node is one block behind the chain tip, or actually any number of blocks behind the chain tip, and I send you a block that I recently mined, you will hold on to it, but you will discard it after your view of the burn chain advances by one block. So that the thinking there is that most of the time, you're only going to be one block behind me anyway. So if I give you a block and you don't know how to process it yet, you'll just know how to process it once you catch up with the burn chain view. Maybe that window needs to be increased to like 2 or 3 or something.
That would be interesting to experiment with these, yeah.
Just make a note of that.
I mean, as Matt suggested in the previous comment on this issue, should we establish like some sort of metric that we want to track, and then based on that decide whether or not to keep this issue open or closed? Because I feel like otherwise, you know, you could potentially always have, you know, chain quality can be further improved as an open-ended issue.
Because stack stuff gives you an overall, but maybe if we should have like a orphan blocks in the last 100 blocks that we track or something like this.
I kind of keep track of that already. So just looking at the number of blocks in the last 144 blocks, only 10 of them were not on the canonical sortition. Sorry, 19 of them. So that is slightly over 10%. We're getting there.
So maybe once it reaches 200 blocks, we can look at what this number is. If it's less than 10%, we close out the issue.
Oh, I just need to like increase this. This is a script that I have that generates reports for me.
I see. Why 144 blocks? What's special about that?
It's the daily
Monday.
I see.
block rate
Yeah.
target.
Yep. It's on average, there's on average 144 Bitcoin blocks a day. So there's on average 144 sortitions a day.
Because when I looked initially at the beginning of mainnet, we were about 110 blocks, stacks blocks a day. But I think it's better these days.
Yeah, it's closer to 144, but I mean, you know, as you say, always better. I agree with you that we should probably pick a limit at which point we'll say we can declare victory. Cool. Mempool transaction propagation leads to slow to confirm transactions. It's on other things, right?
Yeah, I suspect that. Well, I don't know. We solved one of the issues that was driving this, or perhaps several of them. So I would almost say we should close this, and then if in analyzing the mempool transactions, it turns out there's still a problem, then we should open more specific issues for that.
Sure.
Because I think the big issue here was the mempool walking. Where basically, like, if a transaction didn't get confirmed within 2 or 3 blocks, like it was never tried again.
Yeah, because of a missed sortition or an orphan.
Yeah.
Yeah, would cause it not to confirm. Good point. Alrighty, I think we're done with the board. Discussion items. First, I just want to bring to everyone's attention. We have a new mailing list called announce@stacks.org. It's low volume. We're just going to use it to announce new releases as well as their hashes. If you want to subscribe to this, and I encourage you to do so, just send an email to announce+subscribe@stacks.org. It's kind of like it's kind of like what most open source software projects do. It's just the way in which they announce new releases or new critical bug fixes that everyone should upgrade to. Also, discussion point, POX cycle 2 should start this week sometime, next few days. Looking forward. And one thing I'm trying to get done from the foundation side for everyone's attention this week is SIP 11, which just talks about the procedures we will take if we encounter a catastrophic blockchain failure, kind of like a network-wide crash like we had on Sunday, and how we're expected to deal with it, just so we can codify the procedure of who's responsible for what. In particular, we'll be paying attention to like when is it appropriate to do things like do a soft fork or do a hard fork, and like what should you try first, just so we make sure that we use the appropriate mitigation strategy. And so that's all known in advance, so we don't find ourselves scrambling around, at 3 a.m. Or whatever time it happens to be, whenever this happens again. And that said, I'll open the floor. What does anyone want to talk about? Got 15 minutes.
Can we go back to the board briefly and populate the backlog with things that we're actively working on or want to work on this coming week? I think we probably want to move, re-enabling Atlas or Atlas related bug fixes at the top of the queue there.
Sure thing.
And then just to get.
I'm sorry, DeWalker, keep going.
Nothing. I just wanted to make sure that there's sort of a shared understanding of what's high priority and what is everyone sort of individually working on or focusing on for this coming week.
Sure. So I think Ludo and myself will be working on getting Atlas, getting the Atlas working again.
Yeah, and
So-
I think Ludo is also working on the working directory issue. I think given the chain continues to grow longer, I think the ability to restart miners quickly is very, very high leverage, even in the presence of some of these issues. I think the fact that miners take so long to catch up just makes everything else much worse in terms of its impact.
I understand. Part of that can be mitigated by work on the bootstrapping code itself. But yeah, to your point, like we're probably closer to getting the working directory reuse than getting bootstrapping to go faster, because there's many things about bootstrapping that can slow it down. I know that, for example, go ahead.
So one suggestion for this bootstrapping is that we now have the ability to push blocks through the RPC interface.
We do.
So if we have like a full download of microblocks and blocks from another node, or even a partial download, like it would be very easy to script pushing all that data. And it would probably speed up spin up time for a node from like 2 hours down to like 8 or 9 minutes.
So part of the reason, just having watched the boot up process happen a lot recently, part of the reason the boot up is slow is actually because the nodes that aren't yet at 2.0.3 take forever to reply to your block requests. Like we're talking like they time out after 30 seconds and you have to ask them several times.
Yeah, but this would avoid even needing to like contact other nodes for the data.
Yeah, agreed. We could, in a related vein, we could just skip the RPC altogether and just have the node take all of its blocks straight from its database and directory and just reapply them to regenerate the VM index and the clarity index. Like boot from chain state could be an option if for whatever reason working dir is broken.
Yeah, I would want to wait on Ludo's work on the working dir restarts first, because
Agreed.
Yeah,
because you're right, like this is 80% of the way there if you can just push the blocks directly.
Yeah, and it has the advantage of probably not even needing a change to the code base. Like it's basically just a script.
That's right. The script that I have is pretty basic in what it will do. Like you have to keep rerunning it over and over again because the node won't take your micro blocks if it doesn't have the anchored blocks that connect that it bridges. But that could be fixed on the script side too, just make it a little bit smarter.
Yeah, I can work on that this week, as well as the transaction tracking stuff.
Sorry. Chromium is sometimes a dumpster fire, and so it's currently waiting for my input, even though I'm not typing anymore. Give it a sec. There we go. Any other discussion points? Everyone know what they're working on? Okay. Well, I'm always online on Discord. So if anything else comes up, just let me know. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.